Hi, welcome back to our channel Books and Flicks. In the previous video, we reviewed the movie Silverbullet, which is based on StephenKing's famous novella Cycle of the Werewolf. In this video, we will be reviewing the novella. Cycle of the Werewolf was published in 1983 by the publishing house Land of Enchantment as a limited edition. Later in 1985, the novella was published for the mass market. In the following year, the novella had its film adaptation under the title of Silverbullet. Before we jump into the itty-bitty details of the story, let's have a quick look into the horrible creatures that lurk in the dark alleys, the deserted turnpikes, and the lonely parks of the small towns created by King. We will also try to shed light on King's use of horror as an element and instrument that not only tethers the plot of the story or the building up of the characters, but also works as a symbolic representation of the psychological aspect of the current age, along with the social conundrum. From creatures like werewolves, vampires, and aliens, which have corporeal existence, to demons, ghosts, and spirits, which essentially are non-corporeal, have been recurring characters in King's writings. However, what makes King stand out as a horror writer is the fact that his portrayal of these inhuman characters is not always essentially evil. His portrayal of the human characters has proved to be in question in a lot of his writings. This also brings us to the idea of the representation of the element of horror in King's novel. We will be discussing the horror elements in the context of the Cycle of the Werewolf, as we certainly do not want to bore you with the elongated history. Since the plot of the story is roughly identical to the movie that we have reviewed in the previous video, we are assuming that you are acquainted with the basic storyline of the novella. If you have not seen the previous video, please go and check out the video link given in the comment section. However, I will be sharing the plot of the novel while pointing out its differences with the movie. So let's begin. Gruesomeness. When it comes to monster movies, the first thing that we look for is the gruesomeness. That could be the image of the monster or the way their features are portrayed. And the book gets it all right in point. All through the novel, the author has consciously maintained the unease and the sense of fear of the creature even before its actual appearance, every time before it kills. The minute description of the bodies after the killings happen is enough to give chills down the spine to the imaginative readers. What is even more worth mentioning is the realness or the possibility of the gruesomeness of the bodies. The element of fear. The description of the werewolf might not be anything different from the popular beliefs of the features that we know of the creature, but however, I think here, the key to the generation of the element of fear does not lie in the description of the features of the monster, but in the reader's anticipation of its arrival in the chapters. Apart from it, the natural creation of the plots of the little killing events and how naturally the plot elevates also works as an active element of fear for the readers. Monsters aren't always under the bed. This aspect won't be new to King's novel. In fact, we get to see that in most of his works, how most of the time it's not the literal monsters that are evil in its sense, but the humans and their acts prove to be even more monstrous and evil. Like how Stella Randolph was bullied for her obese body in Chapter 2, how Milt Strumfuller tortures his wife in Chapter 3. Stephen King has beautifully incorporated the gray areas in human characters and shown how the society low-key becomes responsible for the development of the characters and belief in the person. The weather of Tarker's Mill. No matter how minute it might be, but the significant role of weather of Tarker's Mill is worth mentioning. From the chilly nights, the shady twilights, to the lonesome evenings, King has proved to be a connoisseur of slow development of the gruesome climax that follows in the story. It's like he silently prepares the readers by conditioning one to the upcoming unspeakable event that is to take place. Here, two examples are worth mentioning. 1. The sequence of Valentine's Night. It's one of the early killings that are to be encountered by the readers. And yes, I am using the word encounter here to imply the reality of the imagery that has been created in novel, and also because it came out as a graphic novel. The chapter is the eerie mixture of raw lust of a middle-aged woman, her unfulfilled dreams, her anticipations, along with the chilly February full moon night, the lonely night, the fear that awaits in the dark, the love and the lover. It's almost poetic how the murder has been described, and also horrific. 2. The next sequence is the murder of Brady Kincaid. This sequence has touched me as a reader differently, as the author has beautifully intersected the playfulness of innocence with the hungry monstrosity waiting for its prey. The weather here has been sunny, and the sky is filled with colorful kites, which apparently implies a happy mood. But the readers would be surprised by the fact that the context of the plot has changed the joviality of the current situation into utter fear. Sympathy for the monster. This is kind of my favorite part, if not to lie. I love the fact how King has cooked the character of Reverend Lowe, our werewolf, to be round character, and we, the readers, get to see the inner turmoil of the Reverend, where he is trying to reason his killings. We get to see how he is not a killing machine, but a human who is a victim of a sickness that he can't control even if he tries to. His confusion about the just and unjust about his purpose makes him more human than any other resident of Tarker's Mill. It won't be an overstatement, as we can see how Milt Strumfuller consciously and self-righteously hits his wife without a conscience, whereas there are times where the Reverend has nightmares about his deeds, which agitates him. These are some of the basic elements about the novel that hit me as a reader. Now let's talk about the differences and similarities of the novel with the movie. The sequential setup of the kills and the victims. The setup and the order of the killings, as well as the backgrounds of the victims, are set differently in the movie than in the book. For example, in the book, Alfie Knopfler is the owner of the cafe Chat and Chew, where we would encounter the transformation of the Reverend for the first time, though the werewolf's identity wasn't revealed to the readers yet, and the subsequent killing of Alfie. In the movie, we get to see a version of him as Owen Knopfler, who runs Owen's Bar, and he too died at the hand of the werewolf when he was out in the forest with other townsfolk hunting for the beasts. Milt Strumfuller is the last victim in the book, but in the movie, he is the third one to go. And there are events that are missing in the movie, like the slaughtering of the pigs in the Zinnemann household, or the gutted body of the janitor Clyde Corliss in the church pulpit. Focus on one family, especially Marty Koslaw. This is one of the major differences that sets the books apart from the movie. The book tells the tale of the lives and the horrific events that happen in the lives of the residents of Tarker's Mill, though in very minute amount, but we get to know about the backstory of each of the murder victims' life in each chapter. The character of Marty, though happens to be a crucial one, does not appear in the book before the month of July. Whereas in the movie, we get to hear the story from the perspective of Marty and his equations with the characters, be it his friend, his sister, his parents, or his maternal uncle Al. The movie even omits the character of the grandfather of Marty. The detailed imagery of the relationship of Marty with his maternal uncle and his sister. The aspect and the equation of Marty's personal relationship is definitely not the main subplot in the book, unlike the movie. Though the book does put out little nuances of the relationship that Marty shares with his father and mother and his sister Jane. As reader, I feel the portrayal of the character of Marty is more meant to be a foil to the character of that of the Reverend. Innocence against crudeness, human physical frailty against monstrosity, courage against pride. The portrayal of Reverend Lowe. The image of the Reverend is very different in the novel than that of the movie. In the movie, the character of Reverend Lowe has been aware of his sickness from very beginning, and he even tries to kill Marty when he sends a note to him revealing the fact that he knows about his real identity. However, in the book, when Marty sends him a note saying, "Why don't you kill yourself?" we come to know the utter ignorance of the Reverend himself about his being a werewolf and how, over the passing of months, he has come to realize that something is wrong with him. Later, a long soliloquy describes his feeling about ending his life.
"Because I don't want to," the Reverend Lowe thinks petulantly. "This, whatever it is nothing I asked for. I wasn't bitten by a wolf or cursed by a gypsy. It just happened. I picked some flowers for the vases in the church vestry one day last November, up by that pretty little cemetery on Sunshine Hill. I never saw such flowers before, and they were dead before I could get back to town. They turned black. Everyone. Perhaps that was when it started to happen. No reason to think so, exactly. But I do. And I won't kill myself. They are the animals, not me."
The car chasing after Marty. The very part was not there in the book. However, I guess the incorporation of this scene in the movie was for adding of tension between the characters. In the book, Marty and the Reverend doesn't have second encounter after he had wounded the Reverend until the end, where he kills him. The final chapter. Another major difference that the book has with the movie that is worth mentioning is the final chapter where Marty finally kills the werewolf. In the movie, the scene takes place during Halloween. However, in the book, the event takes place at 31st of December. The scene in the book ends with Uncle Al hugging Marty, which is quite different than that of the movie. The killing sequence of Brady. The killing of Brady is one of the gruesome and sad events in the novel. As I have mentioned, the unease of the lone park during the falling darkness has been beautifully portrayed both in the books and in the movie. The incident with Marty. The first encounter of Marty with the werewolf is pretty much the same, where he wound one eye of the Reverend. The killing instrument, of course, that has been, same as the title of the movie implies, a silver bullet. Let's end the video with a few fun information about the book. 1. The Cycle of the Werewolf happens to be the smallest novella by King. 2. It was written in the calendar format where chapters are named after months. 3. It's a graphic novel. 4. The illustrations were done by artist Bernie Wrightson. Well, that's pretty much it. I hope you liked the video. If you like it, you know what to do. If you feel I have missed anything, feel free to let me know in the comments. We will be coming up with another interesting video soon. Until then, stay tuned. Love you.